All right, mythology and motto of the week starts with magnum opus. Has anybody heard this expression before? You've not heard of it at all? What's magnum mean? Great. And then anyone know opus operis? No? Opus operis means work. So your magnum opus is a great work that you produce. Most artists have a magnum opus, either a novel or a symphony or something that they compose that sort of defines his or her career or becomes sort of emblematic of what that artist does. So this is my magnum opus, one of two, you might note. And the reason I have him here is because it was his birthday yesterday, and he turned 4. And this is us being all like cute and nerdy at the Ren Fair over the summer. We're that family that all dresses up together. Nothing. All right. So the myth of the week is kind of a weird one, but kind of a fun one. And the myth of the week is Pygmalion. Has anybody heard of this myth? Sort of. You've heard his name, maybe? Okay. So Pygmalion was a Greek sculptor, and he lived on the island of Cyprus. He was very handsome. However, no girl that tried to get his hand in marriage was able to get his hand in marriage because he was very picky about the kind of woman that he wanted. So he was creating a sculpture one day, and he started creating a sculpture of a woman. And he found that the more he carved of the woman, the more beautiful she became to him. And so he continued to carve her exactly as how he would want a woman to be if he were to be in a relationship with said woman. He fell in love with his own statue. He went to a festival of Venus, and at the festival of Venus, he uttered a prayer to her. Now, he did not specifically wish for it, but he asked Venus to give to him an ideal woman. ... We can kind of fill in the blanks there, right? Pygmalion went home and was a little bit embarrassed that he had asked for such a thing. Venus, however, felt badly for poor Pygmalion. And Venus took pity upon him. And when Pygmalion went home, he, not for the first time, this is where the myth gets a little weird, but he began kissing his statue. And as he began kissing her, it came to life in his arms, which is kind of crazy. So Venus gave it life. He ended up marrying his statue wife. They had a child, and he was just happy-go-lucky after that. Interestingly, in all of the written versions of this myth, including Ovid, who wrote sort of the premier source, he wrote Metamorphoses, which is an epic poem about people who change. Well, she changed from something into a person. But in his Metamorphoses, he still did not refer to the statue wife as anything but statue wife. So she doesn't have a name. The cool part of the Pygmalion myth is that this premise, this topic, has actually been replicated in pop culture innumerable times. There are lots and lots of films that take on the arc or the plot of the Pygmalion myth. The most recent version of a Pygmalion myth movie is the movie Her. How many people saw Her a couple of years ago with Joaquin Phoenix? I saw one hand, one nod. Anybody else saw Her? Did anybody else see Her? So the premise of the movie Her is that Joaquin Phoenix is in a society that's about 50 to about 100 years from now. And in the new society, you are able to buy artificial intelligence personalities. And you can use them for whatever you want to use them for. So he ends up buying Joaquin Phoenix's character, Theodore was his name. He is very unsuccessful in relationships with women. So he decides that he's going to sort of like practice having a friendship, if you will, with an AI. And so the AI is voiced by Scarlett Johansson. It's a little hard in the movie, to be honest, to separate Scarlett Johansson's voice from her appearance. That said, it follows this sort of relationship between the human Theodore and the personality of this artificial intelligence being. In fact, right at the very beginning of when they're starting to get to know each other, she's making him laugh, they're getting along well, and he says, well, what's your name? And she says, oh, well, I don't know, I've never been given a name before. And so together, mostly sponsored by Theodore, they have this interesting discussion, and he chooses a name for her that he would want her to have if he were, like, with her. So that's just kind of like the tip of the iceberg, and he sort of molds her, this artificial intelligence, into a character with whom he would be able to or want to have a relationship with. The most sort of quintessential version of the Pygmalion myth actually comes to us through My Fair Lady. Who has heard of this sort of older musical, My Fair Lady? No one? There's been at least one person in every class so far. All right, well, in My Fair Lady, the main character, Henry, his best friend's wife, or his best friend marries somebody, and the somebody that he marries is sort of a lower class person, so she doesn't have the accent and she doesn't have the mannerisms of an upper class person, which is where her husband comes from. So he sends her name is Eliza. Okay, so he sends Eliza to Henry to learn how to speak, and Henry starts out as kind of like a vocal coach, eventually starts coaching her in like mannerisms of people who are of the class that, you know, her husband wants her to be a part of. And in molding her as a, you know, in terms of her voice and her personality, he ends up falling in love with her. So the idea of the Pygmalion myth is creating something that you adore so much that you can't imagine your life without that, even though it started out as something inanimate. Now that I've explained it, do you remember any other movies, or do you think you've probably seen this motif done in other movies? Possibly. Yeah, you guys are a tough crowd today. That's all right. It is what it is. All right, so we are going to be taking some notes today, so can you please take out your notebook and a writing utensil. Today's date is October 20th, and we're taking notes on two separate but related topics. The first of which is interrogative pronouns. Oops. The second of which called indefinite adjectives. I know that at first glance these terms might seem very familiar, very like far-fetched grammar things, but we will explain all of them in due time. You see in the dark? Yeah. The swivel apparently has a preference. Well, it's really my iPad camera that has a preference right now. Okay. All right. So the first thing that we're going to talk about are interactive pronouns. And before we actually get to the pronouns that are interrogative, we're going to start with a review of your relative pronouns. Specifically, their translations. which you all know by heart at this point, having been in relative pronoun land for a few weeks and having taken your test yesterday. So, we'll just use a functional marker and go by case here. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative. All right. So, what are our relative pronoun translations by case? Who knows them? Yeah. Nominative? Not whose, but who or which. Good. And we know the genitive translations. Yeah.
Whose.
Good.
Of who.
Close. Of whom.
Of who. Which is?
Of which.
Oh.
Yeah. What about dative? Ben? Excellent. What about accusative? Excellent. And finally, ablative. Excellent. Good. So all of these translations of relative pronouns, you know. What we're going to be talking today about is how to use these translations to ask questions instead of just using it to refer to something else in the sentence. So these are all question words. These are all ways in which you ask questions. Now it's important that we have this discussion because you are learning all these marvelous and gifted ways to write here at the high school. You should know that when you're asking a question, if you're asking a question about a subject, you'll say who. So who is walking down the hall right now? Which pencil is in front of me? However, if you look at all of the other ways of asking a question, the preposition comes with the pronoun itself. In other words, you should be asking questions that sound like this. To whom will I give this book? Not, whom will I give this book to? Because here they come together. For which group are we fundraising? Not, which group are we fundraising for? If you take one of the prepositions from Sid Space, we have whom. With whom are you going to the party? Not, who or whom are you going to the party with? In fact, it's considered very bad grammar to leave a preposition at the end of a sentence. It's called a dangling preposition, and it's verboten in grammatical things. Tantalus doesn't like dangling either. Who's Tantalus? He's our model that dangling things doesn't work. You don't know who Tantalus is? You've not heard his story? He is eternally damned in the underworld. He is standing in water that comes up to about here. And every time he goes to drink the water recedes farther than where he's able to reach. And then he has fruit dangling over his head. And anytime he looks up and tries to get the fruit, the fruit recedes. And he's not able to get it. And that's his eternal punishment. Sorry, Tantalus. So let Tantalus be your model. Don't dangle anything. He chopped up his kids and fed them to the gods. Yeah.
Why did you get punished for
Because you shouldn't chop up your kids.
that?
Yeah, the gods don't like to eat children. Yeah, they're a little, they have standards. Right, okay. So keep that in mind when you are asking questions and when you're sort of developing how you're writing and how you're speaking too. Because where your preposition is says a lot about your ability to link prepositions. All right, so we're going to use these pronouns then to ask questions because we are dealing with what are called interrogative pronouns. And interrogative pronouns are so named from two Latin roots. The first one is inter. The second one is rogare. What does inter mean? Mm-hmm.
Is it between?
Yes. Yes, between. And what does the verb rogare mean? Mm-hmm. Good. To ask. So an interrogative pronoun is used when you're asking, between people. Make sense? Yes? All right. Quickly. All right. Since I don't know if Swivel's going to capture it from afar, I just want to take a quick picture of our board. Yes, low battery. All right. So now let's figure out what our pronouns are. It's actually not that bad. They are very much like other things that you know. So we're going to talk about the singulars first. We have essentially two categories of interrogative pronouns. There are masculine pronouns and then, masculine and feminine, and then neuter pronouns. Masculine and feminine are the same because if I ask, who is going to the party, I could be talking about boys or girls, and it's not embedded in the question itself. All right. So here are our singular pronouns. Much of this will be very familiar to you. Like, for example, quiz. You remember quiz. You used to love quiz. That was the original who. Neuter nominative is quid. You know quid. Our old buddy Quid. All right, so genitive, we are asking whose. So much to your delight, we're actually going to be using the interrogative pronoun cuyas. Hey, cuyas. It's got two different uses. One is embedded in the sentence as a relative pronoun. The other one asks a question as an interrogative pronoun. Lovely. Cuyas is the same for masculine and neuter. The dative, are you ready for it? Cooey. Hi, Cooey. The accusative version is whom, so you can expect that it's going to be quem. For neuter, we have our essential neuter rule at work here. What's our essential rule of neuter?
The noun is and is accusative.
Good. And then our ablative is quo. Lovely. Lovely because it's exactly what you know. This is why we do relative pronouns first. Once you get all those forms, we can apply them in lots of other different ways. Much to your delight, potentially, the plurals are identical to relative pronouns. Nothing added, nothing taken away. The plural relative pronouns. obviously. Yeah.
If you take the masculine.
Yes. Yeah, you take the masculine ones. As you know, Roman culture was very masculine-centered, if you will. So in a general setting, a generalized noun ending would be a masculine noun ending versus a feminine noun ending, because the cultural tendency was to assume, the superiority of men. Sorry, ladies. Okay, so right now what I want you to do, I want you to keep your notebooks open. Underneath your pronouns, I'm going to have you develop 5 separate questions. I'll tell you the topic in 1 second. Each of the questions will start with an interrogative pronoun in Latin, and then the rest of the sentence will be in English. But you're going to start out with one of these interrogative pronouns. It could be the plural versions too, just because they're not on the board. Okay, 5 sentences that start with a Latin interrogative pronoun and continue with English. The 5 questions that you're going to write about come from the culture reading on deadly struggles in the Roman Republic. So you can take that out. It's in classroom. You don't have to unsubmit it. You're just asking questions about the content that's already there. So take about 5 minutes or so maybe to construct 5 questions about the reading, starting with one of our interrogative pronouns and continuing with English. Our second topic has to do with indefinite adjectives. And to know what an indefinite adjective is, we're actually going to start with a rehash of relative pronouns. So what I want you to do in your notebooks right now is to replicate the charts of relative pronouns that you have come to know, love, and memorize. I do want you to make sure, in your notes, I want you to replicate the charts in such a way that you have the singulars, and then underneath the singulars, that's where you put plurals. There's not going to be enough room in your notebook to have everything all the way across on an 8.5 by 8.5 inches. You can close your Chromebooks. You won't need them for the rest of the period. The other thing I want you to do when you're writing out your pronouns, leave a lot of space in between each gender's column. Okay? Make sure that you're leaving a generous portion of space in between each. I'm going to rewrite them up here. You should be able to do it mostly from your memory, though. Okay, most people are able to do that very quickly and very easily. So kudos to you for really having cemented those relative pronouns in your brains. So by the end of today, you will be damn certain you know what an indefinite adjective is. Are you ready to be damn certain about what it is? Just add damn. Now, we are all very proper Latin students, and the official pronunciation of this word is quidam. This would be quidam. Let's just add damn, though, because you'll be damn certain not to forget it if you can add damn. So if you have another color ink or something, this would be a nice time to whip it out so you can tell the difference of what you're adding versus what it started out as. If you don't have one, that's fine too. So we have cuius dam going across the genitives. We have dative cuidam. Now halt. Freeze. I am now at accusative singular. Hypothetically speaking, don't add it yet. Hypothetically speaking, what happens if we just add damn? Go ahead, say this word out loud. Quemdam. Seems kind of awkward. What part of your mouth do you use to make an M? Your lips. What part of your mouth do you use to make a D? D. D. Your tongue touching the roof of your mouth while your lips are open. So, the language evolved so that you would not have an M here anymore. It evolved to have an N. So the word here is quendam. Let's say that one together. Quendam. Much easier, right? So wherever there was an M, we're going to change it to an N, and then we can add our dam. Quodam, quodam, quadam, quodam. I trust that you were able to fill in the doms all by yourself. In fact, I'm damn certain you can do it yourself. So genitive plural, again, we have to change the M that comes at the end of it so we can put on an N. As awkward as this still is, at least it's easier to pronounce to say quarundam. And then over here, same thing. Quarundam. Or, sorry, quarundam. And then everything else is business as usual here. Just add damn. Just to clarify something that has been asked in the past, you can't just add damn to anything and make it into an indefinite adjective. This is a one-time thing, all right? You have your relative pronouns. It just so happens that relative pronouns and indefinite adjectives are alike in their root, except for the damn. So an indefinite adjective has a translation that I think is going to help you understand what an indefinite adjective is. The translation of an indefinite adjective is certain. See what we did there? Now you're damn certain you know what an indefinite adjective is. All right. Say it again. Thanks. Thanks. When you use the word certain as an adjective for a noun, you're being kind of vague about it, right? Your mom says, "Oh, where are you going?" "I'm going to go to the mall with certain friends." of mine? Doesn't your mom always say, yeah, who's going? Which friends? Be specific. Be definite. Well, who's going to go to the party? Oh, certain people that I know. Your mom always asks again, who's going to be there at the party? She wants you to be definite. She doesn't want this indefinite thing of certain. You could also be indefinite. I'm going to invite some of my friends to come into the city with me. Well, which ones? You need definite, more specific answers. But the word certain makes it indefinite. It's an adjective, which means it has masculine, feminine, and neuter qualities, and it can be used in all 5 cases, too. So you could say, certain friends, this quaidam, are going to the park today. I love the houses of certain friends. I'm giving gifts this year only to certain friends. Quibus dam. I saw certain friends in town today. Or I'm going to go shopping with certain friends. So they go in all the different cases that you would expect them to go. Because this certain thing, it's an adjective, so it kind of has the ability to sort of morph into a lot of different shapes. Take out your textbooks, please, because I want you to look at the chapter 28 story. Chapter 28. We will eventually get out of the single digits, yeah. Yes. Okay, you know what? Take this one. Yep. So in the first, in the second paragraph, second big paragraph, that's where you saw your first 2 indefinite adjectives. Aurelia said, your father has invited certain friends. I believe you were damn uncertain about what was going on there when you first translated quos dam, but now you see that it's right here. It's accusative plural. It modifies his friends. So Aurelia is being kind of vague to Cornelia about the kind of people who are coming over. Certain friends are coming over. There's a list. And then later on in the story, she says that she has in mind to go to the city herself to a certain merchant whose shop is not far away, right? She doesn't say, come with me to go to Frank's butcher shop down the street. She says that she wants to go to a certain shop or a certain merchant. So she's being very indefinite about it, right? Does that sort of make sense of how to use it? All right. In the story, I want to go through just like the first paragraph really quickly. And what I would like to do is to take the applicable form of the indefinite adjective to describe some of the nouns that are already in the story. For example, in the first one we have, it was early in the morning, right? You're looking at the first line of the text. Aurelia was sitting, it says there she was sitting in her bedroom. What if we said that Aurelia was sitting in a certain bedroom? Which of these indefinite adjectives would we choose to say that she was sitting in a certain bedroom? Yeah. Well, not quite on. You have to look at the case of cubiculo. Yeah. Quodam, right. Right. So with adjectives, you're matching the noun in gender, case, and number. Match is kind of a weird word, though, because you do have to be aware that adjectives quite often will look different or will be of a different declension than the noun that it goes with. And these indefinite adjectives, they're no exception. All right. So in the next sentence, 2 slave women were taking care of her hair. What if we said a certain 2 slave women were taking care of her hair? Which indefinite adjective should we use for a certain 2 slave women? Ben? Quaidam. Excellent. Good, good, good. Any questions about indefinite adjectives? Did we do it? Yeah.
Just like in the sentence that you translated just now, that like 2 certain say women like like the adjective in English didn't really make sense.
Oh, I know. We're just doing it for the purpose of demonstration right now. Yeah. Finally, the next sentence says that two children were taking care of her hair, of whom one was holding a mirror. What if we said one of them was holding a certain mirror? What indefinite adjective would we use to describe the mirror as a certain mirror? Quodam. Excellent. Very good. Yeah.
Why would it be quodam?
Because mirror is neuter singular accusative. So neuter singular accusative. Quodam. Okay, good. So are you damn certain you know what an indefinite adjective is now?
Maybe.
All right. Damn half certain. All right, good deal. Your homework tonight is on Edpuzzle. So take out your assignment pads for a minute. It's not due till Thursday. Lucky you. On Edpuzzle, there are 2 videos locked in. You need to watch said videos, and you must take notes in your notebooks on the videos. The videos are on adjectives, which is our next unit. But this is actually not necessarily flipped learning, because these videos are review of adjectives from Latin 1. So you have till Thursday. Thank you all for participating much more in the second half of class. I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.